So Trading 212 is arguably one of the best and easiest brokers for you to get started investing. Or if you're already investing with some other brokers, you should definitely consider Trading 212. It's one of the most fun brokers to use. They keep on coming up with new innovative features, really makes investing very seamless. You can fully automate your investments, earn interest while your money sits on the platform, and even use the Trading 212 card to spend your money. So many features. Let's go through what Trading 212 offers, how to use it, how to buy and sell your first stock, set up automated investments. It might be a longer video, but you'll find the timestamps in the video down below, so you can just jump around to whatever is relevant for you. Right, and here we are inside my Trading 212 app. And if you don't have an account yet, it's very easy. Just scan the QR code on screen or click the link in the description down below. Sign up to it. You can download the app on the Google or Apple Store, register your account, and with my link, you'll get a free fractional share up to 100 euros or pounds. And yes, this is an affiliate link, but there's no additional cost to you. In fact, you will actually get a free fractional share. So that's really amazing. And in case you already set up your account the last few days and didn't get a free fractional share, you can also go into your settings over here, click into use promo code, and here just enter the promo code Kai. Click apply code and you'll get a free fractional share up to 100 euros or pounds. And in case you're wondering, yes, you can also use Trading 212 on the desktop if you prefer. You can do pretty much the same things, but I just find the app very polished, very easy to use. But if you wanted to, you could use it there as well. So this is basically the first screen that you have when you land inside your account. Obviously, it might be zero at first. I'll show you in a second how you can deposit, but it will probably be zero if you start off or you already have some money in there. Now at the top left, you can see over here, I'm right now in the invest. Now, Trading 212 does have different account types. You can see there's also CFD trading, which I honestly would not recommend for most people. It's much more risky. There are also higher fees involved. So if you invest for long term and want to grow your wealth conservatively over time, investing, buying real shares, I believe is the way to go. Now, if you're in the UK or some other countries, you might also have things like ISA, for example. So you would see that over here separately, your ISA tax advantage accounts, they would also be here on the drop down. But for most people, I guess, the invest will be your main account that you want to be trading in. Right, so then over here, we have account value, the change in the last 24 hours, as well as the rate of return. You can also click in the investments and then you can see a breakdown of your various holdings. You see, I have only a fraction of my portfolio over here because I use a number of different stockbrokers, Trading 212 being one of them. And you can see also the weighting, which is quite nice, right? In my case, Amazon has the highest weighting in the portfolio. Again, none of this is buying recommendations. This is just sharing with you what I'm doing with my money. You have to do your own research, obviously. I can see my cost basis, how much I actually spend. And I like that they also have nice explanations when you click on it. Most of these things are clickable so you can understand what it is, as well as the unrealized profits. And hopefully that number would be green over time. And then you see over here, cash. I can click into cash and I can see how many different currencies I have. Because the cool thing is you can have multi-currency accounts. You can have show all. For example, I could have all those various currencies in Trading 212. So in a way, it almost competes with Revolut these days. Well, not directly because you can't really send money and so forth, but with their card, with keeping multi-currency and very competitive exchange rates, in many ways, it has a lot of the similar features, which is really, really nice. But in my case, I mostly use dollars and euros. But again, if you wanted to use any of the other ones, you certainly could. And you can also deposit in these currencies, for example, into Swiss francs, and boom, you will have the Swiss francs deposit details over here in case you wanted to deposit Swiss francs. But in my case, I have dollars, so I click into this over here and you can see here all the various account details. So if you want to deposit via bank transfer, which I always recommend, it's not the fastest. It depends from where you send your money to. For me, it's usually the same day, worst case next day, but still free of charge, which I really like, right? I don't want to pay for a deposit. So then use bank transfer, and very important, make sure you use the payment reference. If you don't use it, I had situations where the money didn't arrive for many, many days. So make sure you copy the payment reference into your bank transfer reference, right? When they ask you in the end notes, put in there, you'll be sure that you receive your funds in the fastest possible way. You can also see here the various interest rates you can get currently on Trading 212. Now they are dynamic, they fluctuate over time, that's natural. But right now you can see on USD 3.3% and even on euros still 2.2%, which is, when you compare it to many other places within the EU, actually one of the higher interest rates out there. Right, you can also of course click on deposit over here and it will pull up a different menu. Now by default, it will select Apple Pay. That's the easiest, but you can see there's a fee to it, which I would not want to be paying, right? And it's 0.7% of the deposit. So in this case, I would prefer a bank transfer, which says up to 2 business days. But as I said, usually it doesn't take that long for me. Same day or worst case next day. And it's zero fees, which is awesome. To withdraw your funds, same principle. Just click on withdraw over here. And you can only withdraw to bank accounts that you previously used to deposit funds. You can also withdraw it back to Apple Pay, but that's only up to a limit of $2,000. You're going to be best off sending it back to the bank account that you used to deposit in the first place. And lastly, from here, you can also convert your currency, which is really cool. And they have some of the best FX conversion fees, the lowest ones I've seen, really competitive, sometimes even better than Revolut at 0.15%. So if you want to exchange $1,000, for example, you would see exactly here what it would be. The fee over here very clearly outlined, 0.15% FX fee and 0% FX fee on their card transactions, which is really, really awesome. So in many ways, actually, it beats many of the other big players out there. Even Wise, I found Trading212 to be better than Wise. And then from here, we have a couple of various lists, watch lists, and so forth on the main dashboard. You can see some of the most popular stocks or commodities that people invest in, and you can swipe to right or left how you wish, most owned, the top winners, top losers. So that's a nice starting point to see what is new, what is trending. So you can also build your own watch list, right? What I did over here. And if you want to change any of that, just go to the very end. You can click on edit over here, and then you can move things around. Click on the gear icon. If you want to delete certain stocks or ETFs, you can do that very easily. So really, really powerful, nice way to keep an eye on all your various investments that you want to potentially invest in for the future. And then at the top right, we also have notifications. So that's also really nice, where you get your various notifications, either general, that could be account related when you make a deposit and so forth. That would all come into here. And then also social, in case you participate in the social community. Show that in a second. You would also get notifications here if somebody comments on your post, what have you. You can also change those notifications over here, what you want to be notified about. Because in the beginning, it was a little bit too much for me. So I went in here and really customized it to how I like it, because I don't like too many notifications, to be honest. From here, we can go to the second icon at the bottom menu, which is the portfolio button, right? That brings us to the main portfolio, where we can see how our investments are doing. You can change, of course, the time period over here. You can also press on the graph and then slide your finger around to see how your portfolio grew over time, which is always nice to see, right? The growth over time. That's the whole point of investing, to see your portfolio grow. You can also click on the gear icon at the top over here, where you, for example, can include or exclude the cash, show net deposits or not. You can sort investments by value or gains or name, investment date. So you can really customize it quite a bit to how you want, and reorder the sections also. If you want to see, for example, AI analysis at the top or bottom, you can just move things around how you like to see them. So you have a lot of flexibility within the app, which I quite like. Now then, of course, at the very top, we see once again our cash holding over here. In my case, it's very little, but if I made a deposit, it would show up over here. Right now, this 14.79 is actually one of the dividends that I received, which I'll show you in a second from one of my holdings. Then you'll see sometimes these little promotional pop-ups over here. These are not advertisements. These are usually just features that you promote within the app, which at first I was a little bit annoyed with, but it's also nice to kind of know what is new inside the app, because they keep on coming up with new things all the time. If you don't like it, you can just exit out of it and it will disappear. Creating pies, I'll come to this a little bit later. I'll show you how that works. AI analysis, also interesting feature, which they recently introduced. It seems like every app or broker these days needs to have some kind of AI tool. Trading212 is no different. It's nice, for some of you who just maybe started investing, you can click on it. It will take a second and it will analyze your portfolio. But again, honestly, I actually prefer just taking a screenshot of my holdings, then going into Claude, which is my favorite AI of choice, and then ask it to analyze and even build a dashboard around it, much more detailed and in-depth. But still, it's a nice starting point, which you get obviously free of charge by having a Trading212 account. So you can see your overall performance, how things are going, your top movers, growth, volatility, sector allocation. Could be a little bit more graphical, I think, but definitely a good starting point. And then once again, here we see the various investments that we have in the portfolio and asset allocation, a little bit more graphical. So you can see how much of your stocks have how much weighting. And then at the bottom, once again, you can reorder the section if you want to do, or click on history. There's also a different way to show you that, but I really like that button to really see what's going on in your account, all the money that came in, the interest on cash, the dividend. You can see here, that's the dividend I mentioned that I got from my S&P 500 holding, when I was paid, how much, really, really nicely. The same on Alphabet. You can see the withholding tax from the US. Unfortunately, they are deducting it with 30%. Since my account is based in the UAE, that's why I cannot reduce it to 15%. But if you're based in the EU, and I believe in the UK as well, you can fill out a W8BEN form, which will in many cases lower your US withholding tax from 30 to, I believe, 15%, which Trading212 will help you with when you set up your account, which really makes sense. So definitely make sure to take advantage of that. And anything else, any deposits and so forth, really, really nice. And if you wanted to only see the dividends, you can click on this over here and see all the various dividends you got. That's such a simple feature, but trust me, I use many different brokers. Not all of them make it that easy. So very, very powerful. You can click on the top right over here to export your history. If you wanted to maybe, export it into your own tracking sheets, what have you, you can certainly do that from here. And if you want to see my full portfolio, what I'm actually investing in, then either scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description down below and it will take you to my full portfolio that's updated in real time, so you can see what I'm personally investing in. With this, we go into the middle button over here where you can look up any stocks or ETF that you want to, and it's very, very simple, very easy. You can see once again already organized by certain topics, EU defense, quantum computing, so it already clusters things around it, so it's easier for you to find what you're looking for. ETFs, right? We all heard we should be investing into ETFs. Great, but which ETF should I go for? Well, you can click on most popular ETFs and you get an idea of what other people are investing in, and really makes it much easier to get started. Or of course, you can just look up any symbol over here. If you wanted to invest, for example, in AMD, right? You can just pull it up. And here, just a warning note, make sure you buy the correct one, right? For example, you see AMD listed on NASDAQ in the US stock exchange. In most cases, if you want to buy the real AMD in the US, that's the one you should be buying. Now underneath, you will also see AMD, but then it's a CFD, which is not the one you want to be buying. That's much more risky and more expensive, and I wouldn't recommend buying CFDs. And you can actually not buy CFD through the Invest platform. You would have to change, as I showed at the beginning, switch back to CFD platform, and from there you could buy it. And then you also have it on different stock markets, right? For example, you see AMD XETR. That's actually in Germany, right? At the German stock market, and that's why the price is also quoted in euros, not in dollars. So again, depends what you're looking for. If you want to buy the real deal in the US, you would go ahead and buy that one. You can either go ahead, click on buy right away, or just click the symbol and you get a little bit of analysis over here. Once again, the price chart, which you can customize also. If you want to see candles, you could do that, or line, how I prefer it. You can see, you can change the chart period if you wanted to, as well include average price or not. So you have a little bit of customization opportunities, but not too overwhelming. You can also click on this enlarge button over here, and then you get a real professional chart. If that's what you like, you can overlay it with indicators and so forth. But again, in most cases, if that's technical trading what you do, then maybe there are better brokers out there, because the spread could be a little bit higher on Trading 212 if you're really into day trading. For that, I really wouldn't recommend Trading 212. But for longer time investing, I think it's probably one of the best brokers. AI analysis, you get some feeds. So that's from the social aspect of the platform, where all the other users can, comment and write something. It also seems to be getting more and more popular that each of the broker has their own sort of social component to it. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but again, it's not like in your face. You can read it if you want to, but you don't have to engage with the social component there. You can see the related pies, all the various pies that include AMD inside of it. And once again, as I said, I'll come to pies in a moment. We have the statistics over here. You can click into it and see all the various statistics that they're offering you. It's not so much. I personally do most of my stock research on Seeking Alpha, but as a starting point, free of charge is definitely really not too bad. You can click into financials here, get even more balance sheets, cash flow, and so forth. And you can see over here earning interest. Now, not all stocks are paying interest. Some of them, which are less popular, you can actually earn money by lending your shares to others. Basically, you just click one button, enable earn interest, and you can get some money. Frankly speaking though, I would not personally do that, because A, technically you're giving away some form of ownership of your stocks, and B, the interest you do earn on it is really very little. Unless you have some really exotic high-risk stocks. On the popular ones like AMD, as you can see, you don't even earn any interest for lending it. So I just don't think it's worth it. At the top right over here, you can also set up price target alerts, right? Which is nice if you want to, say, notify me whenever the stock moves up 5, 10% or down. So you can do that over here, or you can click on the 3 buttons over here. We can add it to your watch list. And another nice feature that I really like about Trading 212 is you can actually click on the logo over here, because right now you can see there's a gray button. So that means the stock market is currently closed. So when you click on it, you will see over here, markets are closed. Just click on the timing over here. It pulls up this list and it converts into your local time, right? So for me right now, they would open at 6:30 local time for me. So basically in around 2 hours, it will open. And at the same time, you can also see the other exchanges where it's listed at. For example, this is at the German one, and that is open because Germany is ahead of the time. So they're already opening. So if you wanted to really buy it, you could buy it now on the German stock market. Right, so let's imagine I want to buy AMD. Again, this is just for illustration purposes. You could click on buy over here, and buying the stock is actually very simple to do. First of all, you have to choose the buying order. Is it a market order, limit, stop, or stop limit order? In most cases, don't worry about all the other ones. I usually always keep it on market, which basically means you buy the stock for the price it is right now. If you wanted to, set up a buying order for a different price, if it hits the price in the future, or if it keeps on dropping, you can do that via stop and limit orders. But again, for most people, I would just keep it at market order. So basically the order gets executed right then and there. Then we see over here the value. So here you can change from number of shares. That's most common with all these old legacy brokers where you have to buy a full share, right? But the whole share is actually $253 of AMD right now. Maybe you don't have that much money to invest. In this case, you couldn't buy it traditionally in the past. The good thing is with Trading 212 and many of the newer brokers, you can buy a fractional share. Basically a fraction of a whole share. Not a whole share, but you could buy half a share or even 1/10 of a share or even less, right? You can basically stipulate the dollar amount. I think the smallest amount that you can buy for is $1, which is really incredible. So if you wanted to buy $1 worth of AMD, that would equate to 0.039 shares. That's really, really amazing. And I think it really democratizes investing because some shares could be north of $1,000 or more. So a lot of beginning investors don't have that much money. So that's really cool that even with small money, you can start getting invested and start building that habit, right? That's the most important thing of long-term investing. You can also use a slider over here, but I find that just typing the number is actually easier. Now, as you can see, right now the market is actually closed, so I couldn't really trigger that order, right? But there's also something called 24/5 trading. You can click on the eye over here. It explains you what it is, how it works. But basically, from Monday to Friday, you can trade any hour of the day, which is really nice. You can just have to enable it. Click that you've read and understood the risk, enable it, and then you could trigger that buying order. Now, personally, I'm not a fan of it and I always try to avoid it. I usually recommend buying when the markets are actually open because you get tighter spreads. Because now the markets are closed, so you don't get the right spread, the difference between the buy and the sell price. So even though Trading 212 does not charge you any commission, you might actually be losing out because you get a worse buying price than the actual price of the market. But since the market is closed right now in the US, the price you might get for it is actually worse. So that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't actually recommend you to do that. But for the sake of this exercise, let me show you how it would work. If the markets were open, I obviously would disable 24/5 trading, but let's go ahead with it. Review order. And then you see a quick summary, which I also like, that you can confirm everything is okay. We're buying AMD shares, $1 worth of it. I get 0.038 shares as a fractional share, 0 commission, which I absolutely love about Trading 212 for both stocks and ETFs. Really, really nice. And the total is $1 basically, right? Send the buy order, will take a second, and boom, I bought the share despite the market being closed, which is really, really quite cool. Again, not something I would recommend, but it just shows you how easy it is. Now, if I go back into my portfolio, you can see AMD has been added and boom, there it is, right? So really, really simple. Now, if I wanted to sell it at the same time, so let's go back and selling it also, I could just go click on sell. And then once again, same principle. I could change the selling order type. I could sell the value amount, or if you wanted to close the entire position, just leave it on number of shares and it already select the number of shares that I do have, all my 0.038 shares, and then go ahead, click on review order. I'll leave 24/5 trading enabled because markets are still closed. Let's go ahead, review the order, and basically I should be getting back my full $1. So let's click on this and boom, order has been placed. And well, there you go. It's now gone out of my portfolio and I'm back with my $14 in cash. So that's as simple as buying and selling is on Trading 212. The same logic applies to any ETF, any investments that you want to buy through the platform. Very, very simple, very straightforward. Again, no commissions. And ideally, you want to place the trade during market open hours to have the tightest and best possible price of execution. Then we can go to the social feed over here. That's the icon over here with these two people. So here you have all the kind of forum and social chat going on, basically like Reddit on Trading 212, right? Where people share their updates and so forth. So quite interesting if you're into this. Again, for me, we have so many different feeds, right? From our own social media to Reddit to X, so many places where you can read people's opinions. Might be sometimes a little bit too overwhelming, but if that's your only financial feed that you have, it can be quite fun to kind of see what people are talking about. And then it's the feed, we have the communities and the pies. So these are different aspects of the community. Right, with this, I want to actually talk about the pie. So let's go back into portfolio and then let's click on create your pie. So if we go into this, basically it's their way of helping you to automate your investments over time. Now you can have 3 different pies to choose from. We have those ETFs from world's largest managers. These are basically professional pies that are put together by professional money managers. If you go into this, you can see here what it is composed of, how it performed over time, see here the various holdings that they have in them. So you can see a number of different ETFs, right? So really quite nicely composed. So it's not just one ETF, but a combination of various ones in here. So you could do that if you want to do. Then we also have social pies. So these are basically pre-made pies by the community as opposed to the professional ones. Here, anyone technically on Trading 212 can create their own pie. And it's quite interesting, right? We have some new ones. You can see here, they have been created very recently. US Venezuela oil pie, obviously around all the various oil companies and so forth. You can see already 4.4 thousand people are investing into this pie. So they're quite active. And then we see the top pies out there. And the biggest one by far is actually the almost daily dividends, 210,000 people investing into that. Really incredible. If you go into this, you can see here the return historically, what they performed. You can get some information, AI analysis as well, the pie creator, as well as the holdings. You know, how many different holdings. You can see so many holdings in there, and most of them are paying you dividends, as the name suggests. And if you want to invest into it, you can just go ahead, select the pie and follow the steps. But I'll show you how that works in detail when we set up our own pie, which you can do over here on custom. Here you can mix and match your ETFs, stocks, whatever you want. And I really like that, right? For example, you could add some Nvidia in here, add to pie, go ahead, boom. Now let's go back, also select some ETFs, Vanguard, S&P 500. A lot of people like that, fine as well. Let's go also Meta, some people like Meta. Again, this is just random stocks. I'm showing you how the principle works, right? Rather than that being a buying recommendation. Maybe Tesla, if you're really in for a wild ride, let's do that one as well. And maybe also because you like German cars as much as I do, being a good German, right? Let's add that to the pie. I would personally not invest in BMW, but again, you get the principle, right? So then if you're happy with all those stocks, you can click on here, go ahead on the blue arrow, and now you make sure that 100% of the pie is allocated, right? Because you cannot have a pie with 80% allocation. All of it has to be allocated. Right now, we have 5 holdings, so basically each of those stocks or ETFs has a 20% weighting. If I wanted Nvidia to have a higher weighting, I could just slide it over here. But in this case, you can see now we're at 110%. So just click on that 110% and confirm that you want the rest to be automatically redistributed, and you can see here how it has redistributed all the rest, right? So really easy to use actually. You can also click on plus if you wanted to add any more to the holdings, or you can also remove from here to X out of them. But yeah, let's say I'm happy with this. Again, not investment advice, just demonstration purposes. Click on next over here. Then I would always recommend Autoinvest, because that way you basically dollar cost average. You make sure your investments get triggered every single day, week, month, however you set it up. Manually, you have to always remember to place those orders yourselves, which people often forget. So make sure it's on Autoinvest. That's just my recommendation. Click on next, and here set up how much you want to invest and how often. The initial deposit, how much you want to invest in the beginning, and that could be any amount, whatever you feel comfortable with. Then set up the frequency. Is it daily, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever you prefer. You can set it up over here. Is it, let's say, the first of every month? Yep, let's go with this update. And then for how many years you want to have it, right? Ideally, as long as possible. You can always cancel it. Even if it is, let's say, for 12 years, you can easily stop it beforehand. And you can see some projected value in the future. Now, of course, nobody can project the future. Here, they're just kind of extrapolating historic returns of those holdings into the future. If you're fine with this, click on next. Give it a meaningful name. Let's go with that one. Next. And from here, it will basically once again run you through, give you a summary of what you plan to do, and then click on Fund Pie, because right now I said initial deposit $200, but I don't have it. So I would have to fund it first in order to set up the pie and execute it. Right, so now that everything is set up, if I go back into my portfolio, you can see all the various individual holdings I have. And you see Kai's Tasty Profit Pie. Right now it's 0 because obviously I haven't invested anything, but I can click into this, see once again, dividends, all the various things. Autoinvest, it's on, but I don't have any payments. So I have to add payment method first in order to make sure those stock buys do actually get triggered. And then you can see the holdings once again to see how each of the holdings inside the pie is actually doing. And if you wanted to get rid of the pie, you can also click at the top right over here. And then, for example, delete the pie. And if you delete the pie, those individual holdings will basically go back into your stock portfolio. It doesn't mean that all of them are being sold. It just means that the pie is such, the combination of those investments will be dissolved and go all into your overall portfolio. So you're not losing your investments. Right, and that brings me to the last part, which is the settings over here, which you find at the bottom right. If you click on those 3 lines, that takes you to the main settings. And here you have the interest on shares. As we mentioned before, if you do have some share lending enabled, you would see that interest over here, but I'm not using that feature, to be honest. You have the interest on cash. That's also something really attractive, which I quite like. Now, the first time you do that, you will have to enable that feature, because by default, the interest rate is actually lower. But they ask you to confirm it, because technically, if you go for the higher interest, that money is not protected as it otherwise is, because now your cash is technically invested into qualifying money market funds, which are not part of your fund protection. But they're fairly safe. Big pension funds and so forth are keeping a lot of their cash in qualified money market funds, and I feel quite comfortable with that as well. You can see here once again the various interest rates. They are dynamic. When you're watching this video, the rates might be different. And you can see over here the payments also coming through. If you have bigger amounts, of course, the amounts will be higher accordingly. Then we have also managed funds here, where you can move funds around. In case you wanted to move some funds from your Invest to CFD or to ISA account, you could very easily do that from within here. The economic calendar, I think, is also quite nice, where you can get an easy view of what's happening in a given month or day. The various price alerts, if you had set up any, you would find them over here and can manage them very easily from here. History, once again, we can see all the various activity on your account. Very, very powerful tab. I check that quite regularly to make sure everything checks out. Portfolio transfer, also a really nice feature that they finally enabled. They didn't have it for many years, but now you can transfer your portfolio from other brokers inside of Trading 212, but more importantly, from Trading 212 to other brokers, which is really, really important. Then once again, the promo code, in case you didn't get your free share yet, just click into it, enter Kai, click apply code, and you'll get a free fractional share worth up to $100 or pounds. Then we have the contact us over here. In case you have any questions, you can reach out to the support. And I must say, I've been really happy. A few times that I did interact with them, they've been really swift and really helped me to solve my issues. So I can really recommend that. Unfortunately, not every stockbroker these days does have a good support system, but with Trading 212, I felt really well looked after. And lastly, but quite important, you see documents over here where you can get various account statements, anything else you might be needing, confirmation of holdings, which you might probably use for your annual tax declaration forms. Now, unfortunately, since my account is based in the UAE, I do not have access to the Trading 212 card. Otherwise, you'll be seeing that at the bottom menu over here, one card icon where you could click into and then basically start setting up your card and use it for daily spending. You can connect it to Apple Pay or Google Pay. So that's really, really powerful and really nice. I could really recommend that. Again, you have 0% FX fee. The cashback is very little. I think it's capped at 15 euros or pounds a month. So for cashback, not that relevant, but for the 0 FX fee, especially if you travel a lot, I think quite attractive. And in many ways better than Revolut if you think about it, because on the free plan of Revolut, you would get the free FX allowance only up to, I think, 1,000 euros or pounds. And even then, the exchange rate is not that good as you have with Trading 212. Well, there you have it, friends. I hope you feel more comfortable now using Trading 212. I can really recommend the platform. I've been using them for a number of years now. Very happy with them. They keep on evolving, adding new features. So really kudos to them. And if you still have any questions about any of the things I mentioned in today's video, pop them in the comments down below. Happy to hear from you. As always, thanks a lot for watching. Stay healthy, get wealthy. See you in the next one. Ciao.